Did you know the time where golden boy William Holden was hospitalized for 48 hours illegally and was on the verge of losing his sanity? This tragic event led to William having a psychotic break. He would lose his grip on reality, and it almost cost him his freedom and acting career. What would be a routine traffic stop for William quickly devolved into a mental nightmare. Upon being stopped by the police and being deemed unfit to drive, he would quickly be admitted to a vile hospital. In the mental institution, William Holden would be medicated against his will, abused and experimented on. He was inches away from losing his sanity and never seeing daylight again. If you want to find out how William Holden managed to escape this unheard-of circumstances, as well as the fate of the doctors that tormented him, listen carefully. William Holden was speeding down the road, burning rubber in his Mustang. He had been nominated for Best Solo Acting that year. The cause of his rush was his anticipation for a dinner date he had with a sultry model. Unfortunately, William knocked back one too many drinks at the award ceremony. He was completely unaware that he was going 100 miles per hour in a 30-mile-per-hour zone. However, the deputy on duty that day sure took notice, his speed radar quickly alerting him to the road menace that was William in his Mustang. In his drunken state, William was unaware of the officer's presence behind him. Thinking it was one of his rivals, William slammed the gas. The Mustang's engine roared with life, darting off like a cheetah. After a short game of cat and mouse on the road, the officer barely caught up with William. He proceeded to flash his cruiser lights, beckoning the intoxicated William to pull over to the side of the road. The officer promptly got out of his car and began to approach William. William was completely unaware of the horrific nightmare that was about to ensue. Keep listening if you want to know what happened to William next. Upon reaching William's Mustang, the officer knocked on his window. The questioning of William had officially begun. The officer began to get the formalities out of the way, such as asking William's address, occupation, and so forth. The officer was a huge fan of William, but he still had a duty of law. William at this stage was completely inebriated. He could barely string two sentences together, constantly tripping over his own words. The officer prompted William to exit the vehicle so that a field sobriety test may be performed, of course. William failed every single test and was unable to walk in a straight line without stumbling. The deputy had seen enough and confiscated William's keys, as he was clearly unfit to drive and would be a deadly risk to himself and others on the road. He decided to brazenly shove William in the back of his police cruiser while he radioed his superiors to come impound the Mustang. He placed the receipt for the vehicle in William's inner coat pocket, so that when he eventually sobered up, he would be able to retrieve his vehicle. The kind gestures, however, would not stop there. This kindness would unwittingly lead to William Holden's torment, unbeknown to the officer. Since the officer was such a big fan of William and his career, watching all his movies from a young age, he felt a deep tang of guilt in his heart, knowing that he would have to send one of his beloved actors to jail. So he opted to drive and drop him off at the nearest hospital. Little did the deputy know he would be making a grave mistake that would leave William Holden with lifelong trauma. Pay close attention if you want to know how William ended up in the clutches of deranged doctors. The deputy was new to the role at the time. He was unfamiliar with the area and mistakenly dropped off William at a mental hospital by accident. William was quickly admitted and humiliatingly stripped of his clothes, as well as having all his belongings confiscated, arms and feet, while strapping him to the bed, treating him like an animal gone out of control. They injected him with unknown substances, causing him to promptly lose consciousness. Before we continue, there is one important fact you must understand. During this period of history, doctors possessed much more unchecked powers compared to today, and their understanding of mental health was also very limited. Procedures that are considered inhumane today were perfectly fine and even encouraged then. Shockingly, William awoke to the medical team preparing surgery equipment. Due to William's erratic behavior, the doctors decided the only way to cure him was to perform an off-the-books mental readjustment. Putting it simply, these maniacal doctors wanted to perform unsanctioned brain surgery. Luckily, the straps on the bed were aged. William could feel them coming loose. However, under such tight surveillance, he decided to pretend to be submissive for now and would soon plan his escape. It was reaching the evening of the second night. William was now desperately running out of time as well as options. He could overhear the doctors making their final preparations. What was a simple police stop would now turn into permanent brain damage. William had to make his move now. Adrenaline pumping through his veins, William ripped the straps off the table and jumped up like a kangaroo. He swiftly sprinted towards the front door of the hospital, patiently waiting for a moment for the nurse to walk away. He could hear them cackling in the office down the hall. He knew the nurses and the doctors would be back soon. He had to continue pushing forward. William began to crawl on the floor like a soldier at war crawling through trenches. After crawling past the office, making sure to not be spotted outside the viewing window, he made a mad dash for the exit. At this stage, a few doctors heard the commotion. Seeing a patient in medical robes make a run for the door, they immediately hit the hospital alarm, alerting all staff on site about the possible escape. As fate had it, there was a delivery being made at that time, causing the door to be held wide open by the delivery man. If it was not for this, the receptionist would lock the door from her office by a security switch. In the blind rush to escape, William knocked over the delivery man, his boxes and goods scattering all over the hospital floor. Behind him, flashlights shone, beams of light breaking through the trees. William was sprinting for his life, ignoring all of the branches and brushes cutting at him. His heart was pounding in his ears. After a while, the shouts of the doctors and security faded away. William was walking along the lonely main road in the cold, silent night. Luckily, a kind couple passing by provided him a safe ride into the nearest town, where he was able to use a payphone for his friends to come collect him. William recovered from that night, but never forgot the horrors the doctors inflicted on him. His case, along with many others, would be the reason why serious mental health medicine reform would occur. That is why we see many of these institutes and practices completely shut down today. Despite the many setbacks, William Holden went on to have a strong and long-lasting career. If you enjoyed the video, like, share, and follow for more. We appreciate all the feedback that helps the channel grow. See you on the next one on Insightful Times.